Hello, my good friend, it's Melvin Pillay. From all the things that we should understand, by far the greatest is to understand the paradox of your calling. You see, my friend, the contrast between right and wrong, hot and cold, righteousness and unrighteousness, poverty and prosperity, that's the contrast. That's how life is between these two polar opposites. And so too is the paradox of your calling. What do I mean by this? Well, if you've lived long enough, if you have walked long enough with God, you would find that there are moments when you, as a child, as a friend, as a servant of God, you are so intimate and you are so close to Him. And then there are moments you cry out, my God, why have you forsaken me? This happens to the best of us. Hey, this happened to Jesus. Upon the cross, He cried out those words. So how do we navigate? What happens? Well, I have found this to be so true. The very thing that you are called to do, you must face the paradox. You must face the polar opposite, not once, not twice, but every cycle of your life. What I mean by a cycle, we know that the 7-year cycles in the Bible we see is always there, economically speaking. And so too is it in our personal lives. There are cycles, there are seasons that we must know, anticipate, and learn how to navigate through. So I want to talk to you about this paradox, the calling and the polar opposite when nothing seems to make sense. I have found that people who are called to help other people break through financially often face the paradox of no money coming through. People who are called to heal the sick have got to often face illness themselves. People who are called to set other people free are often challenged by the bondages of life. Jesus was upon the cross and He cried out, my Father, why have you forsaken me? Then as it came to the end, the ultimate, the climax, the purpose, the reason for His coming to earth, before He said these words, it is finished, He said these words, I thirst. Now this is the paradox of that moment. Here upon the cross is Jesus, publicly displayed, publicly humiliated, and upon that humiliation, He now says, I thirst. Why is this so important? Why is this a paradox? Keep in mind, at just about the start of His ministry, Jesus was sitting at the well, and the woman came up to the well to draw water, and He said to her that He was the living water, and anyone who drank of Him, they would thirst no more. His entire ministry was living water, bringing nourishment, living water, quenching the thirst of every human need and desire or want. Now publicly, humiliated publicly, He calls out in the presence of His enemies, in the presence of those that love Him, in the presence of all of those who have heard Him say that He was the living water, that He was the one that could quench the thirst, that anyone who drank of Him would thirst no more. How is this that the man who is living water, now asked for his own thirst to be quenched. Isn't that remarkable? The paradox of it all, the living water thirsty for something. There's so many different ways you can look at that. There are so many ways that theologians and scholars can spin that or turn it to prove a point. But my teaching is very simple today. If you are called by God, chosen by God into a specific area, you must overcome the total opposite, and that is the paradox of your ministry and life. It's a very simple example. When I started off in kingdom business, God called me to break the spirit of poverty and help business people be set free so that they can plunder and prosper and be kingdom wealthy for the gospel and to care for the needs of people. That was my calling, and guess what happened to me? I had to face the total opposite. I had to face poverty. I had to face moments and seasons of no money, just struggling to make ends meet. I had to face that not once, but throughout my journey. But I actually found the pattern in my life. I found the 7-year cycle. So this is what used to happen. God moved me in 2-year brackets, 2 years, 2 years, 2 years. And the 7th year, the last year, was a year that the abundance just broke through. I mean, there was cash coming through all over. But the 7th year was the greatest year of rest, of nourishment, of fulfillment, just like in the Old Testament times where the ground had to rest for a year after the 7-year cycle and all debt canceled. You know what I'm talking about. So the first 2 years of my life, I didn't understand my cycle, economically speaking. The first 2 years, I thought God had abandoned me. I cried out very much like my father, why have you abandoned me? Why is everything in the area of my business and financial life a mess? I don't understand this. What is going on? Is the devil after me? Have I made a mistake? Have I gone off track? Did I make the biggest mistake of my life? I went through that. Then the next 2 years he moved me, and the next 2 years, and the 7th year. So the 7-year cycle came through. I didn't understand what I am teaching you and sharing right now. After a number of years, I saw the pattern. Every 2 years, God brought my business into I would say an almost collapse. To give you an idea, when I started this particular business that I've been running for about 15 years or so, this type of business, which has been 2 complete cycles. The first 2 years, I really struggled in business. Started from zero. The first year, I made $24,000. Now, when you come from zero, $24,000 is a lot of money in the first year. Between 24 to 38, I would say, somewhere there, give or take. I thought it was awesome. I thought finally the breakthrough has happened. And from 24 to 38, I thought we are now moving, financially speaking, I'm talking about here. I thought great, it happened. Then at the 2-year period, everything stopped for around 2 to 3 months. The business stopped, the clients stopped, people left me, they went their ways. I couldn't understand that. I thought, God, what did I do? Did I make a mistake? Am I sinning? Is the devil after me? All these crazy thoughts. No. After about a 3-month period, in that first 2 years moment, something happened. I started meeting a new type of clientele. My first 2 years, when I started, people used to pay me about $50 a session for my whiteboard session, and I thought that was a lot of money. And so I accumulated around 24 to 38,000. The second 2 years, after my 3 months of no money, no clients, totally lost, the total paradox, I'm called to help people be free financially. Now, for those 3 months period, I myself was without money. Then, after the 3-month period, all of a sudden, as I said, new clients, no longer were they paying me $50, now they were paying me $500 a session. And so this went on for 2 years, $500, $1,000 a session. All of a sudden, from the $38,000, now I am making $150,000 a year. I thought I was the king of the world. 2 years went by, and just for about the end of the 2-year period, for 3 months, all of a sudden, everything stopped. The money stopped, the clients stopped, people left me. Once again, here's me now thinking, Lord, what did I do wrong? Is the devil after me? Did I sin? My Father, why have you forsaken me? The paradox kicked in. It was now the total opposite, no money. I thought finally I had reached a point where I could say to people, listen guys, just follow this pattern and you will receive what God wants for you. Now I found myself in a place where I have got no clients. And then, you guessed it, 3 months later, a new type of clientele. Now they're not paying me $500, they're paying me $5,000 a session. End of that year, more than $300,000. And this went on for 2 years. And you guessed it, after the end of the 2-year period, for 3 months, no clients, everybody left me. The paradox again, and I'm crying out, my Father, why have you forsaken me? Have I sinned? Is the devil after me? And then I got it. It was my cycle. It was my pattern. It was how God moved me to the next level, and the next, constantly every 2 years. That was the pattern of my life. And then when I found the pattern, when I understood the paradox, when I saw how God was promoting me, if you will, I said, wonderful, Lord. So now, after that 2-year period, when I come to that season, when it's slow and low and dry, you know what I do? I do not worry. I'm not plagued by all foolish questions. I do not submit to the circumstances. I don't think according to the circumstances of no abundance coming through. No. Number one, I've planned ahead for it now. Secondly, in the driest, quietest moments and seasons of my business, we travel. We go on cruises, we bless ourselves, we live the highest life. We think big, we go big, we strategize, we do the craziest, biggest things. As a matter of fact, it's in those low moments when we buy the most stuff for ourselves. I buy my suits then, I buy my things I need, and so does Michelle. Doesn't make sense? No, it doesn't have to. Why? It's my low season, my slow season. It's when I take the most rest and we have the most fun. So these cycles, I have learned to understand the paradox in my life, of my calling. My friend, in the moments of your low season, do not worry, do not be anxious, do not be afraid. Rather, rejoice in the Lord always. Be filled with joy. Rest. Go on vacations. Take your spouse out somewhere. Take your children out somewhere. Do something, because God says something tremendous in His Word. That He takes care of the blameless. Even in the midst of famine and hardships and disaster, He will take care of His children, and God keeps His promise. So friend, look at your life, take some time, understand the cycle, the economic cycle, understand the cycles. Maybe if you have a healing ministry, maybe a reconciliation ministry, how about that one? It's a big one, right? If you are called for reconciliation in the lives of other people, wouldn't you believe it that there will be discord in your family? during those cycles, discord, chaos, things that just do not make sense. Hey, listen, I'm your friend Melvin Pillay, just encouraging you today. Do not despair, do not worry, but find the cycles, understand the paradox, rejoice, and God will promote you to that next level. See, Jesus said, my Father, why have you forsaken me? Then he said, I thirst. And then he said, it is finished. What does that tell you? Just before the point of your breakthrough, just before the point of you achieving your goal and finishing the race, that's when this large issue of the paradox will come against you, and you'll have to face it. The total opposite of your calling, the total opposite of what you proclaim, the total opposite of what you speak over the others, the total opposite of what others have said about you. They'll say, oh, you are so filled with joy and happiness, you'll have to face sadness and despair. If they say, oh, you're so wealthy and prosperous, you'll have to face lowness and maybe some poverty or whatever it may be. Whatever God has called you to do, you will face the extreme opposite just before you have your ultimate breakthrough in that 7-year cycle. For me, it's a 7-year cycle. It may be different for you. My friend, I pray this encourages you. I know it's a bit deep, but find that cycle and you will never worry and you will never despair and you will never think that the Father has abandoned you. And worse of all, you will never say these words, the devil's attacking me. No, you have found God's cycle. Hey, this is your friend Melvin Pillay, and as always, walk with God all the days of your life. Learn how to unwork, because if you do, a day will come when I will see you at the top.